everyone. This is Elke Rubach, and this is Get Your House in Order, a podcast that wants to help you live with intentionality and conviction. Today, we are talking about something that is a little different, but yet the same. Today, we're talking about what it really means to run your business with integrity and being clear around your numbers. And that can apply to you personally, can apply to you as a business owner. So my guest today is Ramona Cedeno, and she has helped hundreds of entrepreneurs build financial systems that don't just track data. It really helps them make decisions with clarity, confidence, and growth. We're diving into what it looks like to stop avoiding your numbers and start owning them. As you know, we're very, very vocal about it from our perspective on the personal side and from her perspective on the business side. When you decide based on numbers that you understand and that are clear and represent who you are and what you stand for, your decisions become a lot easier. So without further ado, welcome Ramona. So Ramona, thank you for joining me. Let's dive right in and let's see. In this podcast, we're trying to figure out situations where people can relate. And I think first and foremost, we're all human. You went through some major reset moment. Can you take us back and talk about the moment where you realized that something in your life needed to change, either in your career or how you were approaching your own business? What was your I need to get my house in order moment?
No, thank you, Elke, for having me here. And how many of those moments, personal, career, business, college, high school, right? Where do I start? But I think one moment that I always go back to is when I was very fearful of public speaking, believe it or not. And that limited me so much. In my first career as an accountant, I used to be in rooms where I didn't feel that I could speak like the other people in the room, so I wouldn't say anything. Then I went to another job and I had a terrible episode one day where I was presenting to management and it was numbers, the things that I do every day, right? That I feel so comfortable talking about one on one until I was in a room with a group of executives. And I walked out of there and I could not remember anything that I had said because I was so nervous and I was so insecure that day I said, I have to control this. I have to take charge. This is not going to control me anymore. And that was the day when I decided to just do something about it. And it has changed my life. That's how I started my business. And I do what I do today. And I speak now confidently because of that day.
And I guess we all have our own nervous points or moments where you realize that you need to overcome that fear to get started. Your language are numbers. So you deal with business owners and founders. What do you find is the most common fear for them?
Wow. A lot of times I think it has to do with the way they were brought up, especially when I speak with female entrepreneurs. And they don't have to, any individual that I speak to about finances, money, bank accounts, credit card, taxes, the way they grew up was fearing numbers. Just it's something that's difficult. I'm not good at math. I'm not good with numbers. And then you combine that with money, right? Like we have so many challenges when it comes to finances, whether it's earning, getting paid what we're worth, negotiating. So you combine this fear of numbers with these challenges that we have related to capital, money, any personal finances, business finances, and people freeze, right? They freeze for that moment. They don't know where to turn to. So I think that the biggest fear is not knowing how to do something that involves money and numbers.
So they're driven by their passion, their vision of what they want to do, be it a production of something or a service, but they don't know their numbers.
Correct.
Yeah, and I'm like it's interesting because when we work with business owners, one of the first questions we ask is, "Have you told your story to your family? Have you talked about numbers? Have you talked about finances?" And very often there's this shame behind it, and I I'm trying to help them break that barrier because I've yet to meet a founder or a business owner who started something or took over from the parents who didn't find a dark moment or a tough moment or had to make difficult decisions. So I'm trying to help people normalize the money conversation. Um, when people are overwhelmed by numbers or feel embarrassed about not knowing or not being on top of their finances, what's your approach? What's the advice or practical steps you give people?
I think knowledge is what makes the huge difference between feeling ashamed and what to do next. So if a founder comes to us and they tell us, we I don't know where I am, I don't even want to look at my bank account, I don't know how much I made last year. I hear that a lot. I advise them to focus on just three things. Like, one could be, what was your profit last year? What is your profit today? How have you grown from last year to this year? And this is for business owners, and we have a different approach for individuals if we're working on their tax planning. But just focus on three things that you're proud of, right? Like, if I ask you today, how many new clients do you get last year, or how much revenue do you generate last year compared to the prior year? You pick the one that makes you feel really proud of something that you accomplished, and that's the starting point. And then from there, we focus on the ones that are not making us feel as proud, but just three things that are going to tell you where your business was and what the potential is for the next step.
Do people listen to you? Because I know as a fractional CFO, you're constantly having to pull people back to discipline, correct?
Yes. Habits, creating those habits, setting the time aside to look at the reality, right? The reality sometimes is not pretty, sometimes it's really nice, and just setting the time aside to embrace it, or to acknowledge where you are so you can shift and make harsh decisions sometimes.
So you can't really eat the elephant in one bite. So you're a big fan of systems, and I see that your systems help people go from chaos to clarity, and you help them putting the building blocks in place. Um, what does a healthy financial infrastructure look like for a small or a mid-sized business?
The reporting, the analysis, but let's start from the foundation, right? So bookkeeping, everyone hears of bookkeeping. And what is that? But it's as simple as organizing your revenues and your expenses in a way that makes sense to you. And of course, I support all the reporting or compliance requirements that you may have, like taxes. Everyone knows we have to file taxes. But having that system to report to yourself how you have done in business is the foundation of everything. And then you have your system and process to build your customers. That's such a small task to some business owners, but it makes such a huge impact. If you're not billing your clients timely, collecting timely, if you don't have good terms in your agreements, that can impact your cash flow in a negative way that it's really hard to recover from sometimes. Imagine if you send an invoices 30 days late and then the client takes 30 days to pay you. That's 60 days that you have cash outside of your bank account that belongs to you. So the bookkeeping, the billing process to manage that well, manage your credits, you pay your vendors timely, and care about that credit, because one day you're going to need a loan or no credit, and you want to make sure that your credit is in good state. Three small things that I think we can all start doing today is the bookkeeping, the billing processes, and then the managing your credit. Those are very important.
Let's say I have a great relationship with my bookkeeper and they give me information and I'm running at a million miles an hour. How can I tell the difference between the bookkeeper or my CFO giving me information and giving me what I need, like insight into my business?
Yes, the difference between a bookkeeper and a fractional CFO is in comes down to the strategy and helping you strategize the future of your business. The CFO is looking at the future, is looking at what's not working, what we can do differently, where can we expand, what type of financing are you going to need to support the expansion and the growth. The bookkeeper or your accountant is only giving you the history. How do you know the difference, or how do you know when you need one versus the other? It all depends on where you are in business. If you are starting out, a bookkeeping system, bookkeeping support staff might be enough. But if you're thinking of scaling or growing, your fractional CFO is going to be looking at beyond the books, right? The books are going to be the foundation for how we now shift to that growth phase. And you are going to know if that fractional CFO is giving you that by the way they are positioning your business and the financials and the questions they're asking you. And if they're planning with you for that next growth phase, which includes where do we get the capital? How do we get there? What is the product profitability of each of your products and services? Where are you losing money, and what do we need to cut that down? So that's when you get that strategy. And you can see the difference is very clear between a bookkeeper or an accountant that's looking at the history, and this is where we are today, and we stop there. The CFO is going to look at the future.
So you, as a fractional CFO, is it, I assume, X number of hours per week, or how does that work, or is it different for different people?
The way we structure our services is that yes, or the scope of work, yes, it varies from client to client and business to business. We have clients that have a specific projects for 6 months to a year where they're thinking of exiting or opening a new store or opening a new line of business, and we are working with them to get to that, to get them through that, right? And then we have clients that just want us to manage their finance functions on a day-to-day, and those we work with their bookkeepers if they have another bookkeeping team, payroll companies, and their tax accountants. And we are kind of the glue that brings it all together, but it's also strategizing with the client for scaling or growing. And so the scope is going to depend on how complex the industry is and the business model and all the initiatives that the owner wants to accomplish in the next year or two.
So are you the financial accountability buddy?
Oh, I'm the accountability buddy for a lot of things, compliance too. But yes, you can call us that. Yes, that's a good way to put it.
So it's not just about agency; it's making sure that the numbers go in are fed in with integrity and that somebody's accountable for the results. But what
Exactly.
does that look like on a day-to-day financial decision making?
Yes, no. So in terms of the accountability, we are helping the clients to help stay accountable, timeliness, accuracy, completeness, uh, project managing all their initiatives, right? We help them do that. We help them create a budget that they are held accountable for, that we measure against, cash flow forecast and analysis. We assist them with all of that. The way this looks in reality is that, again, the books have to be clean, organized, and structured in the way that supports the business model and the industry. The bookkeeping, the closing of the financials needs to happen. And that can be by us internally. We have a team that can handle that, and or they can work with their own bookkeeper. Then we come in and we meet with the client and we go over the results and we adjust the budget versus based on how the results are going and what new initiatives the client is involved in that support growth. So as we meet with the client, we are learning how is the sales pipeline? How are the products doing? How do we adjust all that into the model so that we can start tracking based on what is closer to reality? And then we start looking at what is the cash flow looking like? How long can you survive with the cash that you have and these new initiatives that we're running? And that's when we start talking about, is it time to finance any of this? And when we talk about financing, we want to make sure that we're financing something that is going to give us the return on the investment. The capital costs, right? Costs money, and we need to repay it. So we're looking at how can we repay that capital while we are also growing. So there is a lot that happens on a day-to-day. One week we might be focusing on let's update the budget and let's make sure we have accounted for your new clients, that you have the pipeline of prospective clients, that we are accounting for the fact that you hired this new staff to support sales. Another week, we might be speaking about compliance. There might be a compliance situation going on with that industry, and we want to make sure that they are up to date. And so we track different initiatives on a week by week basis, and we have other team members that support each of those depending on the expertise needed.
Okay, so I can only assume that your conversations with founders has to be pretty careful, I guess, because probably many founders lead with passion and they want to make decisions, and they're convinced that this is going to work. But what happens when the numbers don't sustain it? How do you separate emotions from numbers?
When a founder is looking for venture capital funding, it's easier to have those conversations because they have to respond to someone else, right? So they have an investor or a bank that wants to see results. So it's easier to have those conversations like, what's not working? Is this product viable? What shift do we need to make sure that we are on track? When it's a small business owner that is not accountable to anyone but themselves, a lot of times they are putting so much money into the business while losing a lot. And that's a harder conversation because they believe in the service or the product and they're so passionate about it that sometimes they don't see that there is really not profitability in the near future from that business. And that's a very difficult conversation to have. And the way I approach it is either by suggesting different supplementary services and products that they can add to diversify the revenue streams, right? Some clients, let's say they own a therapy practice, and let's say that wasn't as profitable yet, which is very rare because that's service, so usually they are. But we can talk about, can you have a subscription model? Can you productize anything that will generate additional revenue? Can you start working with corporations? Can you start working with the government agencies? So those are the conversations that I'm having with them to help them expand the horizon for revenue generation, rather than saying, this business is not viable, we have to shut it down. That would never be the first 3 conversations that I would have with them.
Yeah, well, when we have our conversations with our clients, we say, listen, we're not the good news fairy. So if there's a problem, I'd rather bring it out now and then and look for a solution. If we have one, then, tell you that in 15 years, well, actually, this didn't work. And now you're stuck with the aftermath, right?
Yes.
So founders and business owners need to be willing to let go. So that's leadership, delegation, and trust. Delegation is a hot topic, and some people, I would say a vast majority of entrepreneurs, delegate finances either too early or too blindly or not at all. What's your take on when and how to delegate financial responsibilities?
As a business owner, if I'm speaking to a business owner, I warn them about the difference between delegating 100% or delegating the mundane tasks, but owning the information, right? And the process and the deliverable. I don't recommend a business owner to be 100% detached from the finances. That's not possible. That's not sustainable. That's not possible for a business to be successful if the business owner doesn't know what's going on with the finances. Large corporations have CEOs, right? Understanding what's happening with the numbers. They have to. So business owners sometimes get completely detached. They will say to us, oh, I don't know what the accountant was doing. I just signed the return. Oh, I got the financials and I just took it at face value. That's not good leadership. The business owners and the management team need to understand what's behind the numbers. They don't need to know how the numbers got to where they got, but they need to understand what they mean. And they have to have some way to validate to get comfortable with the validity of those numbers.
But okay, so then you raise a very good point. People, the founder doesn't need to be involved in how you got there in terms of numbers, but how can you build a culture where everyone from admin to execs feel accountable to the company?
That's a very good question. And that is I think is understanding, getting everyone on the same page with what is the ultimate objective and how each how what each of them does builds up to the either their overall financial state of performance of the company at the gross level, revenue wise, or the bottom line, right? And this when you grow and you have different departments, you have marketing and you have sales and you have the administration or finance admin team, a lot of times they don't know how what I do impacts this company's profitability and growth. And the governance comes at the top, from the CEO or the CFO, if we want to start at the CFO level, and it's making them part of the process. So we, for example, they want the company to grow by 25%. How we're going to get there, and getting everyone in the same room to talk about this and how the sales team is going to impact that number and the marketing team is going to impact that number. And yes, there is a team that's overhead, but what you do really impacts that number as well, because every task that you complete takes us a step closer to collecting faster, to billing faster, to managing costs. So as you grow, it's important that everyone understands that whatever they do impacts the success of that company.
And what happens when the founder is the actual bottleneck?
Ah, well, I have seen that. I have seen that a lot. And what happens is that they don't realize that they are the bottleneck and they blame it on everyone else. And then they stay in this cycle of, we can do this because this person is not giving me X, but it's really the founder, right? Sometimes we have to tell them, in a nice way and say, it might be a good idea to hire someone or to assign someone from the team to manage these 3 to 5 things that you are doing, that you're responsible for. And sometimes we have to create systems for them to let go. One of the clear examples that we get sometimes is the business owner being the only one who can make payments in the bank account, right? Because they can let go of that access. And we understand that it's really hard for you to give your bank account to an employee to just go in and make payments. But there are tools now that allow you to delegate that task without giving access to the account, right? With the process for approval of the invoice, approval of the payment, 5 steps before the payment is done, and it's super automated and they don't have to make those payments. But that is one example that we see all the time.
And now this brings me to something that I often write about, and that there's not enough of. How do you see financial literacy playing out, or lack of financial literacy playing out, not just in companies, but in economies? And do you think that the system set business owners for success or confusion?
I think that whatever we bring in our personal lives when it comes to financial literacy impacts the business. There is no question about it. If we were really good with numbers at the personal level, we're going to be good in the business. If we cannot manage our personal bank account, we're not going to be able to manage a business bank account. And so financial literacy will impact businesses when it comes to the systems and what the system has, the role the system has had in this. It comes down to, a lot of times, is the education, access to the education, not having financial literacy training as part of our education system. In most cases, I know a lot of schools are doing that now, are incorporating financial literacy into their curriculum, which is amazing. But there is still the majority of schools that don't have this. And when you find an adult that is trying to learn how to manage their money, and they have this interest in doing that and doing it well, it's a shame that we didn't start that when they were 10 or 15, right? And it's good to see now, but we haven't learned from seeing these cases, right? We see that adults are saying, I wish I had learned this when I was 5 or 10. We should be using those cases to say, okay, let's prevent that for the next generation. And fortunately, we have a lot of content out there about this topic. The other side of that is that not as many people are taking advantage of it. And that's another situation that we have to deal with. Why is that? Why is it that there is it because we have so many compelling priorities that we can focus on that area of our lives, or is it because we're just keeping up with the we just repeating what we have seen in the past with our parents and other members of the society?
Well, I find when we talk to our families, there's a fear on the first generation to tell the next generation how much money there is or there isn't, or how much they need to live. It's an ongoing exercise of figuring out, well, what's your lifestyle? How much do you actually live on? What is it that you really need? What are you expecting to? Are you expecting to live in the retirement years? What is retirement for you? It was really easy before, when you retired at 65 and then you died at 70 and everything was easy. But now you have to plan for another third of your life that may or may not have the same level of revenue, and expenses may or may not go up or down, or we don't know. Everybody's different. And I think there's fear in having the conversation with the next generation. I don't know exactly why. I continuously invite people to open it up and really get the blinders off. It's not, it's a matter of fact, right? Money is there or it isn't, and not talking about it doesn't make the problem go away. And quite the contrary, when you talk about money, then people also end up talking about final wishes and hard conversations that, not having them, don't address the issue. But if you start having them, I'm not saying sit down and talk about everything in one go with your family, but you need to really normalize the conversation so people are comfortable. And the first time is really weird, and then the second one is a little less weird, and the third time it becomes natural and second nature. And you're also making sure that it's not passed on to the next generation, because if your parents didn't talk to you about money, does that mean you don't talk to your kids about money? Like, you're not really helping them. I don't know if you've seen those reels that say, I'm glad I learned had the entire periodic table, because that's very helpful when I file my taxes.
I haven't seen those, but I need to find them. I was smiling because I love to having these conversations with my kids. I have two boys, 24 and 15, and they asked me like how one of them asked me, my 15-year-old, the other day. He said, how much money do you need to live where we live? And we started this conversation in the car, and it was beautiful to have this conversation with him. It's scary to have to tell him how much it really takes when they are like just at the very bottom. So you don't want to scare them, but you also want to set reality, right? So I love having this conversation. I have the conversations about my estate and my will planning, and the older says, Mom, why are we having this conversation now? Is everything okay? I'm like, yes, everything is okay, but I want to talk about these things. It's important. And it's important to show them that it's okay to talk about those things with your kids and do those things timely. So when they get older, like you said, they can do the same, right? I
And
love it. Yes.
and the other way around, like, not talking about it is not okay. It's a big problem. And even though you talk about it with your kids, the other day I had an aha moment, because we talk about mortgages and who owns what, and how who owns and owes and does and doesn't do, and how it works. And and obviously I'm introducing them to government programs and how they work, and how they, in your case, 401ks or meets RSPs and all those things. And then at some point I mentioned briefly the safe, and they turn around and said, what's the safe? Well, of course, the new generation has no idea that under a bank there's a portion of it that has a bunch of little drawers, and people put things in there. Yeah. And it hit me. I'm like, of course they don't know. They've never been there. So all those things that you assume, I think it's an ongoing conversation, and your list has to be updated every time there's a change, like not even once. And what about wills, right? People don't have wills. And if they have them, they're old, and they're like, yeah, I have them. I got it done 10 years ago. And when you look at the date, well, actually it was 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. And yes. Since then you have 3 more kids, or no kids, or they're adults, or it's all over the place. So it's I think we owe it to ourselves as business owners, as individuals, to sit down and plan and have our fractional CFO on a personal level or on a business level, right?
Yes, financial planners are great to have. That's for the at the personal level. On the business level, you need some type of finance advisory expertise. You want a fractional CFO, a good CPA and tax accountant advisor, someone who is not just filing a tax returns, but actually setting strategies for you to save on tax, because that's our one of the largest expenses that we have, right? At the personal level and the business level. And it's important to plan, to get advice, to take advantage of the opportunities so that you can add more to your personal wealth and to your business bottom line if you have a business.
No, absolutely, and it's an ongoing conversation. And if anything, I think by delegating that piece, you are removing a massive weight that is heavier than it needs to be.
Yes. And also, it is heavy. You don't know all the answers. And also, you will get expertise or get insights into something that you would not be able to do yourself. And sometimes, you can ChatGPT everything you want, but like to put all the pieces together, that's where the tricky part is how do I know when to combine a 529 with a Roth IRA with expanding my business? Do I register in New York versus California? Like there are so many pieces to this puzzle. And then the personal side, right? It's really hard to do it on your own unless that's your career. If you have a career in that field, then definitely you can do it on your own. I outsource marketing. I outsource marketing because I don't know how to market my business. So I have experts that help me with that, sometimes more than one. And I outsource legal, right? And a lot of other areas that I know my areas of expertise.
So I guess it's also a matter of having the right mindset, right? So when you look at entrepreneurs who are really thrive, not just survive, what's the different mindset you see?
The ones that thrive versus the ones that survive. So the ones that thrive have, of course, a long-term vision, right? They don't have a business for what the business is doing for me today. They have a business for what that business can do for them as part of their overall wealth planning, the legacy they want to leave, and then what they want to add to this world, right? I want my company to be here even beyond my time here, or at least the processes or the methodology, something, right? That something impacts this world beyond just the 10 years, 20 years that I own it. So that's the first thing. And then the next thing is figuring out where to invest their time in the most effective way and where to invest financially so that their business can grow faster and scale faster, right? So investing financially into is the finance expertise, is it marketing, is it sales, is it legal? All of those areas, if left unattended, can have their own repercussions in the business. And a good leader will know when to go from I do it all to I need to outsource some of these things. And if they don't know when, they ask. That's the first thing they can look for advice on is when do I know that I need to let go of something? There is an expert there for everything. There is an expert that will tell you when to do that, right? So a good leader will ask for help and ask for advice and then make decisions based on that advice.
Now, the other thing I think is, I agree 1,000% with you, and I think it's important to realize that at some point you're so overwhelmed with decisions, like everything is coming your way. You need to start deciding the right front center, a marketing decision, and an investment decision, and HR decision. Like it's everything. It's like you need to stop and really think. And listen, I'm guilty of that too, right? And there are times where you realize that your decisions are starting to all either look the same or not be as impactful or something. Like there's something fundamentally off, and you have to sit down and realize that you're at a risk of burnout.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, it's so funny you mentioned that. I say to my husband sometimes, like, I think there must be something around like being at capacity in your life, right? I was like equating it to like when you are at capacity at work, is that can't take any more work, I can't take any more clients, I can't do any more work because I'm at capacity. I was like, I wonder if that exists in life, because sometimes we feel like we have 1,000 items on our to-dos and you're doing them quickly without analyzing the impact of each one of them in your life and in the business, but also in your life. So what I have done is I use Tony Robbins. He has this program, which is RPM. I don't remember what it stands for, but it talks about prioritizing your to-dos. And you have heard of this. He just gave it a different name, but it's when you put into buckets, like what's important and urgent, what's important and value add, or something like that. And you put those buckets together, and then you start choosing from those what to do on a given day. And I have realized that the things that I need to focus on are those that I'm thinking about all the time. So updating my will and my state, my trust, that was weighing on me since May. And I didn't get to it because it wasn't a deliverable for clients. And then one day I was like, this is the one thing that I'm thinking about constantly. I need to get that done. So I dedicated my weekend, one weekend to that. And it might be something related to calling the state or the IRS for a tax issue that I have been postponing. Whatever is weighing on me, that's what I'm going to prioritize that week. But it's interesting that you say that, because I think it's happening to a lot of people where they feel like there is so much on their plate that there is no time to even to think about what you're doing, what's in front of you, or to digest, what's happening and how that's going to impact you.
And do you do that weekly, or because like, how do you keep the balance? If you say on a Sunday, this is what I'm going to do this week, and that's it.
Yes.
That sounds great and romantic, but we know that it's Monday, 8 a.m., and you have 12 emails in your inbox and asking you for 27 different decisions.
Yeah. Yes. No, the emails, I have been speaking to a few automation and AI experts, and the email is, if that's the one thing right now that's bothering me, is the influx of emails from all parties. Oh my gosh. This is, in the last few years, this inbox management has become a task itself. So yes, that's a challenge. I usually have to catch up on my emails on Saturdays, but I'm doing something about it. So I'm going to automate some parts of it. I have a lot of ideas for AI people on how to automate email management, and including a knowledge database. I'll talk to other people, whoever wants to talk to me about that offline. But the way I do it is really, I don't see it here, but I have a calendar where I write for my day my top 5 priorities that day. Because what happens, this is just a whole topic on its own, right? Like, this is a separate topic. What I noticed that happened with this to-dos is that because there's so many things coming up new each day, you forget about a very important thing that you had from Friday that was in your inbox. But because your inbox now has 50 new emails, you might forget that one thing, right? So I said I had to take that out of that. If this is important, I need to put it on paper in front of me. So that's one thing that I'm doing. And then the issue of the weekends, I need to stop working on the weekends, but I do like to do some things on the weekend because it's quiet, like working on my will, on my stage, right? I would not, on my trust, I would not do that during the week. I purposely do that on the weekends. And there are some things that I do on the weekend on purpose. And what I do is I plan them around when my kids are at the tennis lessons for 3 hours, right? Or when I know they're going to sleep in late, I coordinate it that way so that I don't feel like I'm giving up my time with them, and just get what I need to get done.
Okay, no, I think it's important. I'm always looking for ideas. I find Sunday nights I like to block time and figure it out, but it takes gigantic discipline not to try to get back to all the emails, and I think I get something anywhere between 150 and 250 a day.
Yes.
A lot of them I delete, and then the other thing I do is on Saturday mornings I unsubscribe, and they add you back again. Ugh.
Oh, okay. So that I have a tip for that. And you sound just like me. I do clean up my emails on Saturdays. I created an inbox for unsubscribe, and I create a rule. Anything that says unsubscribe on it goes to that folder. It's a folder. And it doesn't come into my folder. And if I want to go and review them, which I do once a week when I'm watching a boring show, I scroll down on my unsubscribe email inbox, and then I, if I need to read one, I read it. But that helped me keep thousands of emails from my off of my inbox. And I can create rules for all the things, like if it's from this person and it's, I'm just on the CC and this is the subject, move it to this folder, like when my team is CCing me on something. But the unsubscribe is a big issue because I want to read the emails from my friends that send me their newsletters, but I don't want to read them from every tax subscription that wants to send me a newsletter about the big beautiful bill, because I already got that from someone else, right? So yes, that's what I do for that area of the inbox.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. And then you know which ones drive me crazy? The global thank you, and it's a reply all.
Oh yeah. Yes, yes. I
But
think
anyway,
that.
I mean, people mean well, and it's just, I guess it's really, I think it's a result of having too many emails
Yes,
that those little things become a problem.
yes, yeah.
Anyway, let's go back to our topic. So going back to numbers, for people who are listening and have been avoiding getting clear on their numbers, be it personal, that's where we help, or be it corporately or business wise. What's your challenge to them this week? It's Monday. Where do we start?
At the personal level,
Or business, I guess. Both.
yes,
Both.
I'll do both. Yes. So at the personal level, for individuals that need to organize their finances, I recommend two things. This is going to be painful, but you must do it. Download your transactions from each of your credit card and your bank accounts and review them. And if you can, categorize them and summarize them by type, like all my Amazon purchases, all my clothing purchases, and you add those up, you're going to see so many opportunities for reducing your expenses. And you can do the same thing with your income. So that's for at the personal level. The other thing for individuals, there is an app. I'm not going to say the name because I don't know if it's available to everyone, but there are many of these apps. There are apps where you can connect all your credit cards and your bank accounts to give you visibility into your total income and expenses at any given point. And it gives you your net worth. How much do you have when you compare your assets, your money in the bank, your IRA accounts, minus what you owe? To me, that's powerful. I open that app and I'm like, okay, is my net worth decreasing or increasing? Are my debts increasing? Why is my credit card now X when it was X last month? So really powerful. On the business side, it's your financial statements. Like, look at those financial statements. If you don't have them, the challenge is to put them together. Your income statement and your balance sheet. Look at them and learn from what those numbers are telling you. How is your business doing? Is it growing? Is it the revenue where you want it to be? Do you have expenses that don't belong there? And then that information gives you the power to plan for the future, to forecast, to hire, to change pricing strategies, to expand a product that's profitable. So at the business level, start looking at those reports. And if you don't have them, create them. If you have them, schedule a meeting with your accountant, with your fractional CFO, hire a fractional CFO, and work together on taking your business to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, if you could do it alone, you would have done it already, right? So it's always best to find someone who can help you with this.
Yes.
Okay, Ramona, let's wrap it up with a lightning round. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, so what is your favorite book ever that changed the way you thought about life?
And oh my gosh. I never read finance books. All I read was novels. I was a romantic. I lived in the countryside in the Dominican Republic, and I had tons of books. I didn't have TV, and I just used to write about women and falling in love and moving to a new country and becoming being successful. Like those are the books that I used to love. And Diane, is it Diane Lane, the author? She has a lot of now I don't remember the last name, but she was my favorite, and I used to read all her novels, and they make me dream, right? They help me dream, and I used to dream of being in, not necessarily in the United States, but in a big city and doing big things. And I believe that my dreams have come true.
Okay. What's the one number every entrepreneur needs to know by heart right now?
What is your profit margin? How much money are you really making from your business?
Cash flow or profit? Which one tells the real story?
Cash flow.
Okay. First thing you do when a client says, I don't understand my P&L.
Look at it. That probably means you have never looked at it. But no. If they're understanding, they have seen it. I would say get someone to give you an overview of how to read the P&L.
Okay. Yes. Biggest financial red flag you see in a small business?
Lack of visibility in their finances.
If you could ban one money habit forever, what would it be?
One money habit forever is using the credit cards without having put together your budget or your analysis of what you have in your bank account.
Okay. One financial tool or app you actually love and use?
I use Empower for personal purposes because I can connect all my accounts into it and see. That's the one I was going to talk about before. For business is QuickBooks.
Okay. Delegation, is it easy or excruciating for most founders?
It's really hard. I'm still working on delegating every day. Yes, it's not easy.
In one word, what does financial freedom feel like?
For me, it's happiness. I love doing what I love doing, and when I have the money to do it, and the lack of fear, it doesn't have to be just money. It's about not being fearful. I can dance and not think about what my bank account looks like. I can go on a trip and not think about what's waiting for me at home. So it's not about how much you make, it's how comfortable you feel when managing what you make and what you spend.
Okay, so complete the sentence. Getting your house in order means
that you know where everything is and how you're going to use that information, your financial data is, and how you're going to use that data to take the next move.
Well, thank you very much. Mm-hmm. To our listeners, if you took one thing from today's conversation, it's this: you can't build freedom on financial denial. Ramona Cedeno reminds us that clarity isn't just a spreadsheet. It's an act of leadership, and you need to get your numbers in order, and the rest will follow. Thank you very much, and we'll chat with you soon.